Da-na-da-da, da-na-da-da. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Marilyn Darling Show. And welcome to the first episode of Fountain Pen Calligraphy 101. Just gonna give me a second to make sure that I'm live. Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Here's a reminder. 1 p.m. Here's a reminder. 1 p.m.
Okay, good. Welcome. Everybody come in and get seated. We're going to start here in just a second. I'm going to share this with all of our friends to let them know that we are live. Making sure that we are all here. And as Alexa said, it is 1 p.m. How are you all doing today? Are you having a nice day? I hope you're having a nice day. This will be calligraphy, fountain pen calligraphy 101. We're going to go over the things that you're going to need. And I'm going to show you how to get them. These will be useful for future classes and probably throughout the rest of your life. If you want to continue with calligraphy. We're going to do, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show y'all my bullet journal. This is my bullet journal for this week. And we're going to do FP Okay. Did the laundry, went shopping, did the currently inked, had Michael's birthday, paid the credit card, saw RV Debs, did not see Mr. Ward. He was at the calligraphy convention, celebrated World Calligraphy Day, saw Blind Views. Happy birthday to Sarah, celebrated RV Debs. Doing a bojo. We'll have a fountain. We'll do a Zoom later, and my vacation starts today. So, that's it. We're going to go over kind of an introductory. We're going to kind of finish off our introduction to calligraphy by talking about all of these things in the span of about 15 days. Is everyone able to see? I'll make sure everyone can see it good. It does look a little fuzzy if you don't have it on 720p. it may look a little blurry to you. The first thing that we're going to talk about are the necessities, the things that you're going to need to complete this class. You're going to need some sort of flexible fountain pen. These are examples of flexible fountain pens. This is a NOODLERS Ahab, a NOODLERS KONRAD, another NOODLERS KONRAD, a Waterman 12 POC, another Waterman 12, a Fountain Pen Revolution Jaipur, a Fountain Pen Revolution Himalaya, and another Fountain Pen Revolution Himalaya. These are just examples of fountain pens that you could use to complete this class. Okay, the next thing that you're going to need is paper. You're going to need paper to complete the class. If you don't have paper, you can go out to your nearest 99-cent store or whatever. I suggest buying CVS caliber notebook paper in a loose leaf form. That way, you will have the ability to see lines underneath it. It's thin enough and sturdy enough that you can use pretty much anything except mead. Please do not use mead. It is a crappy. Don't use 5-star from Target. Use something like Unison composition book. This is 50 cents from Target. Excellent stuff. It'll get you through all of the things that we're going to be needing to deal with. Okay. So, talked about we need pens. Flexible fountain pen. The next thing you're going to need is paper. I suggest CVS caliber notebook paper. CVS caliber notebook paper or Unison composition book. But any paper will do. The next thing you're going to need is some sort of ink. Fountain pen ink. I would suggest using some sort of Waterman black, Parker Quink black, Pilot Iroshizuku Takasume. Any ink will do, as long as it doesn't bleed through the page and doesn't feather into the page. This is an example of what feathering looks like. As long as it doesn't do this or that, you should be fine. Especially if it does that. It's super naughty. Throw that in the garbage. Okay? The next thing that you're going to need is guidelines. You go to this website here. This is calligraphy.com/guide sheets. Okay. Now this top one here, when you click it, it's going to ask you where you want to save it. You take and put it on your desktop, and then you go down to the name, file name. You click after the guide, and then you put .pdf and click enter. Well, this one's asking me if I want to replace it, in which case, yes. It will download the file. It should look like this, and you should be able to print it. I would suggest printing 10 copies because you will use these throughout your calligraphy journey. Okay? And then just keep them in a book safe away from all of your other supplies. I keep mine down in this hardcover book inside of a sleeve, a transparent sleeve, so they don't get mangled or mucked up. And you will know when you need to get a new one because your sheet will start to resemble what looks like a party on the page. And will start to look something similar to this. Now, I would also suggest if you have some, you can use double-sided tape, or you can use some sort of Scotch permanent tape and a clipboard. You're going to need either a clipboard or a notebook, something that you can have so that way it won't move around while you're doing your calligraphy. You should be able to hold it down with one hand and do calligraphy with the other. So what you're essentially doing is gluing down a piece of this lined paper to a clipboard. So that way you can put a piece of paper on top of it, and you will be able to see the lines underneath, just ever so slightly. These are called guidelines. They're going to be very important for making your letters look nice. Okay? Also, you can use them in your notebook if you have a notebook and you do not want to laminate this. I've tried laminating it. It just makes it crinkly. You can still use it in your notebook. Cool? So, where is my thing that I was just working on 5 seconds ago? Okay, here we go. So we need a clipboard. And some sort of tape. and guidelines. If you do not have guidelines, or you do not have the ability to print guidelines, I'm going to show you a trick. You have a piece of paper, and if you were to cut the piece of paper in half, or rather, if you were to fold the piece of paper into a square, okay, that's about a square. This is a 45 degree angle. Okay? You want it ever so slightly not so lenient. So what you do is you would fold it so that way the ends are at a point, and that is about a 55 degree angle. About. It goes from this corner to this corner. Or about. Doesn't have to be super exact. And then all you have to do is take a ruler and a pen and make your lines with a pencil. Move it up to the next one. And so on and so forth. That's about a 55 degree angle. And you can make a whole bunch of them going across the page. Now, if you are using, you can also use graph paper. You can get this stuff at the dollar store. It's usually pretty good. It's not the best, but it's pretty good. I'll show you a little trick here too. So this is square. This is a square. And this is a 45 degree angle. Well, this is about a 55 degree angle. So from there to there is about a 55 degree angle. Okay. Okay. Now what? So, a lot of people, like myself, don't have a lot of money to buy pens and ink and whatnot. So, I would suggest that you go to Amazon and find some ink cartridges. You can find ink cartridges for, I think, like 99 cents. And you can get a a small bottle of ink for $1.99. Doesn't really matter what the ink is, you know, but find some ink, and I'm going to be using all kinds of different inks, and I will try and tell you what they are as we do them. This is obviously pencil. You can use a pencil too. So, what else? So, introduction materials. You're going to need pen, ink, and paper. We will go over some terms. Let's go over some terms. We're going to use the NOODLERS Ahab to demonstrate the terms of the fountain pen. This is a clip. It goes on a shirt. Top is the finial. This is obviously a cap. Cap comes off. Sometimes it has a inside sheath. It's called the cap liner. It's to keep the nib. This metally part is the nib. The tip is the point. Tip here is the point. Down the middle of the nib is called the slit. Sometimes they will have cutouts on the shoulders. This bit here is called the shoulder. The part that the nib sits on top of, the bit that the nib sits on top of is called the feed. It feeds the ink to the tip of the nib. The feed has a slit. You gotta be cooperative. The feed has a slit down the middle, all the way down to the end. Sometimes they have a hole in it to facilitate capillary action. The nib and the feed go into the grip section. That would be the part that you hold and also holds the nib inside. Like so. The grip section comes apart from the barrel. And sometimes you'll have an inner inside the grip section. Sometimes you will have a nib housing. The nib housing. This is a Jinhao 992. The nib housing can be unscrewed from the grip section. Et voila. Sometimes you'll have a pen that doesn't have a barrel, but it will have a piston barrel that moves ink inside of the barrel like so. Sometimes you will have a spring-loaded mechanism like the TWSBI Go. Take the barrel off, depress the piston, dip it in the ink, release, sucks up the ink. This is a manual piston converter cartridge. It can be removed from the grip section and filled like an eyedropper, taking a syringe or some sort of bulbous instrument to fill the cartridge converter to be placed on the back of the pen. Or you can dip the nib into ink and suck up the ink like so. Now, for demonstration purposes, I am going to fill this pen. We're going to fill it with Krishna Primary Blue. Depress the plunger, the ink pen in the ink, pull up the ink, push it back in, pull it up one last time. And you should have some ink in your barrel, in your cartridge converter. If you don't, you can do that a couple of times to get a full fill. Okay. Seems like a pretty full fill to me. Okay. Then what you do after you ink your pen, make sure and cap your bottle. Wipe off any excess. Make sure you put your pen and nib back in the pen. If it falls out a little bit, that's okay. It happens sometimes. Now, most nibs do not spread. This one, however, does spread a little bit, only just a little bit. So I'm going to come over here, kind of show you what I'm looking at. When you press down, the nibs move apart. I'm having technical difficulties, I'm sorry. So most nibs do not spread. These ones do. You spread them by pushing down and pulling with your pen. The NOODLERS is a very difficult nib to spread the tines with. Very difficult. Therefore, I will not be using the NOODLERS and the NOODLERS original nib for the remainder of this demonstration. I will be using the NOODLERS KONRAD with a Fountain Pen Revolution ULTRAFLEX nib. You can see that the shoulders are cut out of the nib to create much easier flexibility. So, because I'm not going to use this anymore, it's going back. Okay. Just don't spill your bottle. Please, God, don't spill your bottle. It's a nightmare, trust me. I was a smurf for like a month. Okay. So you can get yourself a NOODLERS KONRAD, which is NOODLERS KONRAD, cheapest, costs real NOODLERS KONRAD. Where are they? That's a nib creeper. We don't want a nib creeper. Nib creeper. Here we go. So the NOODLERS KONRAD is $23. And then if we go to Fountain Pen Revolution or FPRevolutionUSA.com, you can go down to Nibs, number 6 Nibs, and a FPR ULTRAFLEX nib will run you $19. So, 23 and 19. Let's see. Nib creeper is $23. And a FPR ULTRAFLEX is $19. $42 plus shipping, whatever shipping is. It's about a $50 pen. Or you can go to Fountain Pen Revolution and you can go to their FPR section. I highly recommend the Himalaya version 2 in purple amethyst. It's one of my favorite colors so far. And you can get an ULTRAFLEX nib, and it's $49 plus shipping, which is a very good deal. So, UF is ULTRAFLEX. 49. So, I definitely recommend both options. They're about the same size. You can also get the Jaipur I also have the Jaipur, which is basically the same pen, but it has a nicer acrylic to it. It's up to you. I highly recommend getting a flex pen. Of course, if you have a vintage pen, this is a vintage. A vintage Waterman can cost you $200 or better. Unless you know somebody. And if you do, let me know. So, then there is flexibility. The POC12, this pen has colloquially been called the Boinga Boinga because it has very flexible nib. This Waterman 12 has more of a stiffer nib. Makes a finer point. Not so much flexibility. Also, like the the Moonman T1, doesn't have very much flexibility. So if you have a number 5 nib or number 6 nib, it's probably not flexible unless it says flex or ULTRAFLEX. You can use a broad nib, which this is a TWSBI 1.1. This is a stub, which you can get some characteristic out of, but not really for doing flex calligraphy. And then there is a very broad nib, which this is a 3.8 pilot parallel. Parallel. Which is a broad type nib. We won't be using any of those either. So if you have the ability to buy one, I would buy one. A flex nib if you can afford one. And if you can't afford one, you can use whatever nib you have. And you can do what is colloquially known as faux calligraphy. And then you go in and you make the down strokes just a little bit thicker. And somebody is writing me a message right now, and they know that I'm busy. Okay, so you can use faux calligraphy if you don't have a flexible fountain pen. Just 1 second. Okay. So, okay. Isn't that nice? Did calligraphy, and we didn't even have to use a flexible fountain pen. We'll go over that another day. But this just gives you kind of an overview of what we're going to be looking at. Okay. Where's my paper? Oh, it ran away because I've got the fan going. Oh, God. So, talked about terms of what the parts of the pen are. We talked about a little bit about ink. Talked a little bit about this, the part that this is a piston. Inside the piston is the mechanism that moves the ink up if you find that your pen is burping. Burping is when your pen leaks out onto the page when there's no force being applied. Sometimes pens burp and you have to push the air all the way out and you'll get little bubbles. You'll get little bubbles. Oh, and sometimes you'll spit all over yourself. It happens. There's going to be plenty of that, so just have a roll of toilet paper handy. Oh, that should probably be on the list, huh? The list of essentials. Okay, where is it? All right. Toilet paper. This has two purposes. The first is it is the cheapest ink blotter I know. Put it over it, swipe, and it's dry. You don't have to really worry about, well, I mean, this is a bad example, but most inks, once you have them pretty good and dry, don't smear very, a lot. You can still tell what it is. What else is there to talk about? Let me see. Cartridges, converters. Oh, so the piston is probably one of the best options if you are looking to buy a fountain pen. It has a flexible nib because they keep more ink in them, and they are pretty easy to wash out. You just pull the nib feed and out, squirt some water down in there with a syringe or even a bulb syringe. Just dump it out. You're done. You just let it dry. Soak your nib and feed in some water overnight. And rinse it off and shove it back in the pen, and bada bing, bada boom, you're on your way to a new ink. It's really fast. And this is the piston turning knob, sometimes called the blind cap, because sometimes it has, this is the blind cap. It covers the piston turning knob. Sometimes, though, the piston turning knob is the blind cap, so you have to be careful and make note of which pens don't have a piston turning knob or an integrated piston turning knob into the blind cap, so that you don't go squirt ink all over yourself. Because let me tell you how fun that is. It's not. I'm just kidding. Okay. Well, we've gone over a lot. Tomorrow, we will go over the basic strokes and how to use your pen, and possibly ways that we can start writing words. So that is all for today. I think we've gone over a lot. So you have your list of things that you need to go to the store to get. So we got pen with flex. We have not made paper. And we have ink. Most any ink will do. And or a pencil. We might need some toilet paper or paper towel. Or if you are extra fancy, you might have some of these laying around. These are called blotting papers. You write something and you want to move on to the next page, you put it down, you move your hand over it, wait for it to dry, lift it up, and whatever's been underneath it is pretty much dry or able to be turned the page with. So, okay, last but not least, guide sheets. A clipboard. And maybe some tape. Tape or a tape runner. That's a lot to think about for the first day. So we will come back tomorrow. I will do a currently inked video, and we will start learning the basic strokes. That is all for today. I want to thank you all for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed that one. I hope that you learned something. Please share this video with your friends, follow me on social media, like, comment, subscribe, ring the little bell, make sure it's set to all, so when I upload new content, YouTube notifies you. And I will be back very soon with another video. So, take care until then. Okay, love you, bye.